They thought the quiet visitor was harmless, but when the villagers finally searched the silent man's room, they found a map of the entire village pinned under his mattress, but what froze everyone was the last page. It wasn't a map. It was a list of names. Beside each name was a date. And the next date was tonight. In a quiet village far from the main roads, where people trusted each other and lived side by side like family, a stranger arrived one hot afternoon. No one saw where he came from. He simply appeared on the dusty path, walking slowly with a small brown bag in his hand. His clothes were worn, his face looked tired, and his eyes did not show joy or anger. They showed nothing. The villagers greeted him the way they greeted all visitors. They asked his name, but he did not answer. They asked where he was coming from, but he only looked at the ground. They asked if he was hungry or tired, and he nodded once but said nothing. Some thought maybe he had lost his voice. Others thought he was shy. A few thought he was not shy at all, but strange. Still, the elders allowed him to stay in the old community house, the one used for travelers. This was normal. The village helped travelers all the time. Nobody imagined anything bad. But the stranger acted differently from any traveler they had ever seen. He never smiled. He never tried to talk. He never made a sound, not even a cough or a sigh. He walked around the village during the day, slow and silent, with his eyes paying close attention to things most people ignored. He looked at houses longer than necessary. He stared at doors and windows like he was counting something. He walked around fences 2 or 3 times. He watched people live in their homes and watched how they locked or didn't lock their doors. He watched children play. He watched workers walk to the farms. He watched women carry water. He watched the dogs. And he never spoke. At first, the villagers tried to be patient. They told themselves he was harmless. But strange things began happening. People started seeing him at night in places he shouldn't be. One woman woke up in the middle of the night and found him standing at the edge of her yard, looking at her house. He didn't move toward her. He didn't walk away. He just stared, silent and still, until she closed the door and locked it. Another villager saw him crouching behind the mango trees near the school long after sunset. He wasn't sleeping. He wasn't hiding from rain or cold. He was watching a home as if waiting for something. When the villager approached him and asked what he was doing, the stranger stood and walked away without saying a word. Soon, the entire village began locking their doors early. Parents kept children close. People stopped sitting outside after dark. No one wanted to admit they were scared, but the fear was there. Dogs barked more than usual. Some nights they barked at nothing visible. Still, the elders said the stranger had done nothing wrong. He stole nothing. He touched no one. He harmed no one. Silence alone was not a crime, but silence can be the mask of something much deeper. The truth came out by accident. One afternoon, a few boys were playing near the community house where the stranger slept. Their ball rolled through the open door. When they went inside to get it, they spotted something under his thin mattress. At first, they thought it was trash or old paper. Then one boy saw the corner of a drawing. They lifted the mattress and froze. Underneath were stacks of paper. Dozens of papers. Folded, dirty, and cramped. They picked one up and ran outside screaming. The elders took the papers, opened them one by one, and a cold silence fell over the village. Each paper had a drawing of a house. Not artistic drawings. Not pretty. Rough lines, shaky shapes, but very detailed. The houses were drawn from different angles. Front, back, sides. Some had arrows pointing to doors. Some had marks around windows. Some had written notes. And some had dates. Future dates. It became clear that the stranger had been mapping the entire village. Every home. Every entrance. Every weak spot. Every path that stayed dark. Every window that didn't close fully. Every house that had children. Every family's routine. He had even marked which houses were empty at certain hours. Which houses had easy access. Which ones were vulnerable. And some drawings had names written under them. Names of the people living there. The dates under certain drawings suggested something was planned. Something soon. One drawing broke the elders. It was the house of an old widow. The window where she slept was circled in red. Under it was a date only 2 nights away. No one wanted to imagine what he was planning. The villagers ran to the community house to confront the man. They grabbed his bag and emptied it. There was nothing inside except a rope, a small knife, and more folded papers. When they pulled him outside and demanded answers, he stood perfectly still. He didn't shake. He didn't resist. He didn't show fear. He didn't show anger. He simply stood with the calmness of someone who had no reason to explain anything. The elders asked why he drew the houses. He said nothing. They asked what the dates meant. He didn't blink. They asked who he was and what he wanted. He didn't move. His silence felt heavier than shouting. It felt like a war. The elders told him he must leave the village by morning. He didn't nod. He didn't argue. He didn't react at all. He just stood there staring at the ground. People stayed awake all night watching their doors and windows. Every lantern in the village burned until dawn. Men held sticks. Women held knives. Children were told to sleep close in the safest rooms. Before the sun rose, someone checked the community house again. The man was gone. No one saw him leave. No footprints. No sound. No sign he had ever been there, except the drawings he left behind. The villagers searched for him in the forest, on the roads, near the river, and beyond the farms. He had disappeared like smoke in the wind. No one knows if he ever planned to return. But his purpose had already been revealed. He did not come for food. He did not come for rest. He came to study the village. To study the people. To study the places where people felt safe. He came to understand the village better than the villagers understood themselves. For many months afterward, people locked their windows before sunset. Parents stayed close to their children. Travelers were checked carefully. The empty community house was no longer used for visitors. Everyone slept lightly. Even years later, some villagers swore they saw a man with the same face walking on the far road. But no one could prove it was him. The story became a warning told to children and passed down through the seasons. A story that reminded people that danger does not always shout. Sometimes it watches quietly. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it hides in silence. The elders explained the lesson every time the story was told. Quiet people can hide loud danger. Not because all quiet people are bad. Not because silence itself is evil. But because silence gives room for secrets, for planning, for things unseen. In the case of the stranger, silence was the cover for something dark. Something prepared. Something carefully studied. The villagers never forgot what his silence hid. And they never forgot how close danger came without making a single sound. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and join the family. Your support means a lot, and I can't wait to share more stories with you. See you in the next one.